Welcome to the Casual Adventure Nights. Welcome to the Casual Adventure Notes podcast, the Can podcast. Lazy, easy listening about little life's adventures
and lessons.
I'm Daz.
I'm Devy.
All right, let's kick off with our palate cleanser then.
So let's just continue with our 101 things I learned in psychology school. Did you want to pick a number, Daz?
31.
All right, 31. This is a long one. All right, so this one is titled Emotions Link Body and Intellect. Early psychologists held emotion to be a cognitive awareness of the body having reacted to an event. If an external source presented a threat, for example, one would experience sweating, a pounding heart, and heavy breathing, and would then feel fearful. But because the different emotions may accompany the same psychological characteristics, physical symptoms alone cannot be responsible for emotions. Sexual attraction, for example, shares physical symptoms with fear, such as increased heart rate and sweating. This suggests that one's existing cognitive framework is also in play. In fact, emotions and their physical characteristics can arise in the reverse order and even without external stimuli. Thoughts about a loved one, for example, may lead to worrying about their presence, which may lead to fear, and sometimes something has happened to them, which may lead to an increased heart rate. The mind's interplay with physiology can lead to misattribution of our emotions. In one study, men whose heart rate increased from crossing a rickety bridge found a female research assistant more attractive than men who interacted with her on solid ground in a calm state. Researchers believed that the men mistook their fear for sexual arousal. And then on the left, there's a picture of sort of like your sensories, like, sight, touch, hear, smell, taste, and then sort of numbers associated with that, with the description, approximate transmission rates of the senses in bits per second.
It's just saying that there are different types of feelings that evokes the same biological reactions in your body.
Yeah, exactly. So fear, which you kind of associate with sweating and increased heart rate, could be the same as, when you're seeing, someone that is attractive and, maybe someone that you want to get to know better, but you're very nervous to talk to them or something like that. So I guess you can't really map an emotion with a single, physical, effect.
Yeah, because there's like overlap or whatever. Like you can't associate exactly the thing. There's a really nice quote I read in one of my books that I've read recently that has something to do with that. I read a lot of romance, so this one is talking about how I wish I remember the quote. I don't even remember the book, if I'm honest, but it's something about so the book is a fantasy, so there's different creatures in the books, and then there's humans, and then there's like people that aren't humans. I think they're fairies or something. I don't know. But anyways, the non-human people are basically saying to the human, because she's infatuated with them, and then they're like, "Oh, humans are so easy because they mistake love for fear or something like that," and it kind of plays into that, I think.
Yeah, that's right. I think it comes back to also your I guess there's the quantitative aspect with it. For example, if you're measuring someone's heartbeat, you sometimes think, them being in a dangerous situation would have a much more intense heartbeat per rate versus, them seeing someone that they, fancy at school. But it might actually be, the other way around, depending on the person.
Yeah. And then the other place that I've seen it recently, I just finished the current run of the anime Rerun Beyond the Journey, which is a really wholesome anime, and I recommend anyone watch it. but it's basically about this elf that lives forever, or not forever, but for a very, very, very long time. So naturally, she like outlives humans and other species in the world. And then it's kind of following the tale of like how she learns to appreciate feelings and all that. But then there's these monsters in the anime, and they're like referred to as demons. And she's like, oh yeah, feelings can mess you up, and demons know that because they're cold-hearted and they don't really have feelings. But then the more intelligent demons, they end up tricking humans by just playing into those emotional reactions that humans naturally have. So if it's not fear, it's love. And in the way they do it, they always use the word, oh, my mum or my dad. Like my mum wouldn't want me to do this, or, you know, my dad died too, so I sympathize with you. But then in the series, it's like it flips it, and one of the other demons goes, what's a dad? And he's like, I don't know, but you always get humans to react to it when you say that.
Yeah. There's always like certain, I guess, trigger topics or words that can really invoke, someone's emotions.
Which is wild, because I feel like that's how like psychopaths get to people. Like,
and even scams, like scammers, like they might
to be your mum.
Yeah, there was like series of like texts that went out to like people where they're like, oh, it's like, I don't know how they changed it, but they changed the name of the text message from mum, being like, oh, I'm at the groceries and I forgot my I didn't have enough money in my bank account for some reason. Can you transfer me like $50 to this account? And I think like even I like actually like transferred, but I actually did it through because I have an account with my mum, so I transferred it then, and I called her like an hour later. She's like, I never messaged you this, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. And I looked closely and I realized it was actually a scam. But if someone had sent me a random message from a Paul Smith or something, I would never have even just responded at all.
Playing into your emotion.
Yeah. So you have to be careful, because sometimes people can use that for for scamming purposes.
Sad. I mean, there's a lot of famous serial killers that literally take note of that and then play into it as well. Like even luring people by pretending to be nice and helpful. I don't know if this is a urban story or if it's real, but like some of the earlier warnings, I'm going to call them warnings, that I heard growing up about like don't trust others around you, which is like so sad that you can't trust the world around you. But there's three stories that I remember hearing a lot growing up that like that was like advice not to trust the world. The first was, if you're ever alone or if it's really late at night and you hear a baby crying near your house or near you or outside your home, like they say, don't go out because it's a fake recording to like lure you out.
Yeah.
So that's a famous one. And again, I don't know if these are like urban legends or like real examples that have just kind of blown up over time.
Yeah.
The second one is, if you're driving and you see a tree that's
a branch, it's blocking the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get out of your car.
Just go back, reverse the other way and find an alternative route.
Yeah. Because it's to lure you out again.
Your car to move the branch.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the other one where like sometimes people deliberately like slightly bump into the back of your car. So sometimes they're targeting people that have really nice cars, and the idea is to get them, because normally if you have an accident and you go out, you exchange details for insurance purposes. But there was this, I think for a period, people, there was I'm not sure the gangs or not, but they were deliberately bumping softly into people and then essentially stealing their car, like when they got out, to do what was quite a normal, exchange of details and insurance.
Crazy. I wonder if I have this fear about software being a big part of everyone's life at the moment. So with electric cars being so prominent now, because it's software, I was like, will we ever get to a stage where that's hackable? And people can steal cars?
Probably. I mean, like
that's
the last
scary.
couple of years, we've had such major data breaches from what are very big, companies that you assumably have a massive budget allocated to cybersecurity. So it does happen. But at the same time, I guess that technology could be used to, I guess, counteract more like human incidences. Like, if someone does steal your car, it's got inbuilt GPS. So it's almost like, pretty easy to track and find the car and the person.
That's true. And you hope the smarter people are the ones who work for those companies to like make it more as secure as it can be.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's like even giving the illusion that it is, unbreakable, or you can't really hack it, because then it almost prevents people from even trying to begin with. 'Cause sometimes, it's like it's just the facade of something being very hard and difficult, that it's not really worth that person's effort to hack into something or break into someone's house, because it's just too much work. So no point.
Yeah, that's true. Anyways, I don't have a nice segue into our main course today, so I'm just going to go for it. So, main course today, I've recently been rewatching one of my favorite movies, which is really random, and it's called How to Train a Dragon. How to Train a Dragon. It's a like animation cartoon type movie that came out in 2010. I don't think it's Disney. It's by
DreamWorks.
It might be DreamWorks.
I feel like
How to Train a Dragon. I muted myself again. Sorry. Animation Studio. DreamWorks Animation. Yeah, it was DreamWorks Animation. I've been rewatching that, and this is the reason why I rewatched it. So I like fantasy, but also not fantasy, if that makes sense. So I like make-believe stuff. Like growing up, I was really into like fairies and unicorns and ponies and all that stuff. So I kind of like the make-believe world and things.
Ponies are real, aren't they?
I said unicorns.
And ponies, you said.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of My Little Pony. I was a fan of My Little Pony.
Oh, okay, that's definitely...
They talked. They were magical. So I was into like fantasy. But I was never into like Harry Potter. Like I never got into the wizard world. And like even
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, in recent years, like Games of Thrones, I never got into. It's just not my cup of tea. Like I get the appeal because I like, guess, make-believe stuff in other contexts. But for those ones that have done really well in the mainstream stuff, I just could never really get into it. And I really don't know why. Like I actually haven't really dived that deep into it, to be honest. But something I only realized recently, what gets me is dragons. Like I really like dragons, but not in a world where it's like a hybrid human dragon, like actual dragons. And then I narrowed it down to like, I like dragons when they are your companion in the storyline. So they're like this bonded creature to you. And then I realized, I think what I actually like about it is the idea of loyalty and having this like unbreakable bond that you have with someone. I think that's the stories that I'm always drawn to, because I think my inner child wants to believe in the world that like there is unbreakable bonds and true friendships and soulmates that you'll have that will never let you down because it will overcome all logic.
It's almost like the same concept as Avatar Last Airbender, and how Aang has Appa. That's the do you not know this?
I haven't watched Avatar.
Okay, well that's a similar concept around like when he like monks, or I don't know, they're not, whether they're still monks anymore, I can't remember, but they get gifted a bison, and that bison is their life mate for the rest of their lives. And it's also similar to House of the Dragon, again, because dragons play a very prominent role in that, and some of the characters are bonded to a dragon until they die, and then the dragon then either becomes like unattached, or it might attach to a new human that it bonds with somehow.
What's House of Dragons?
It's a prequel to Game of Thrones. So it's set back in the Targaryen dynasty, and when they were pretty much the I guess the head of the Seven Kingdoms. And I think that whole prequel is around like the War of the Dragons, where essentially there's two families that are both Targaryens trying to get the throne. And so they're, going to go to this big war. So I think that's the build up of the current series. So yeah, I don't know whether you sort of saw that I was talking about it or watched it. And that's maybe we're stimulated because I was watching that for the last couple of weeks because it's just returned now for season 2. I think the first season came out back in like 2022.
Okay, so that's a series that piqued my interest and I might actually like it despite not being a fan of Games of Thrones. The reason it kind of came up though, and the reason I rewatched How to Train a Dragon, and then I realized there was 2 other movies that came out in like a couple of years later, so I'm going to watch that over the week, is because I just finished a book called The Fourth Wing. It's a series. For the girlies who know, don't judge me too hard. It's not, I wouldn't call it great literature. But it's
smart.
A little bit.
Okay.
It's it went viral on TikTok, and that's how I heard about it because I'm on Book Talk, and they recommended it. And at first, I like dismissed it all because I was like, oh, whatever. But then they're like, oh, it has dragons in it. It's romance and dragons. I was like, ooh, interesting. So I picked it up and like read it in like a couple of days. It's a very easy read. But I really like it despite it not being like the best thing in the world. But it does have a lot of fans behind it. So it must be like somewhat good. But it basically follows the story of this main girl, and it's like a coming of age thing because she's quite like weak. And then in the series, they go to the school, and then when you graduate the school, you can become certain types of class or jobs that you have to kind of help better the city because it's a wartime. And then the jobs range from like being a scribe, which is someone who documents history and makes sure that they are written, like writing everything down and make sure it's accurate and all that stuff, and like just the queen and kings of observations. And then the more dangerous job is riders, and riders are essentially people who ride dragons and are warriors because they normally fight on the front line. But part of the story is you do like all these exams to become a rider because you have to be both mentally and physically able to become a rider. But then they say like even if you are the best of the best, it doesn't guarantee you to become a rider at the end of it because a dragon has to pick you and choose to bond with you. But if you're like stronger, then they're more likely to because dragons don't like weak people. But then when you bond with a dragon, it's like unconditional loyalty that they have to you because there's all these like law in the book around like if the dragon dies, you die as well. If you die, the dragon is most likely to die because it can't live without you.
No.
And they define like they will go against the law and go against the rules because of the bond for you. Like they'll do everything to protect you. Like there's a few sad scenes that's related to that as well. But it's basically about her and how she ends up bonding with one of the strongest dragons you can bond with. And then it's just her journey there. And then there's the good part because there's like a boy there and it's like an enemy to lover storyline, which is great as well. But my point is that was what triggered me to be like, oh my God, dragons, loyalty, like this unbreakable bond. Amazing. Like where else have I seen that before? And then I remember like the first media I consumed was probably How to Train a Dragon. It was the first time I was like, dragons are cool. And then something a little bit more innocent as well. So I rewatched that. Do you know what How to Train a Dragon is about?
I actually haven't watched any of the movies. It really never appealed to me. So I get the whole, the interest around like, I guess it sort of delves into, friendship and like you said, loyalty. But there's something about like when humans in stories, in fictional stories, they partner up with animals, whether it's a dragon or a dog or something that just I think it almost tugs the the emotional feeling in yourself, and you get more invested in their relationship than almost if it was like another human with another human.
It does hit different.
Yeah, and it's more sad when like when the human dies or the animal dies. Like there's that whole story in Japan of that, what's that dog, the famous dog Hachibo, and how Hachibo like would go to the station with their owner every day, and then at some point the owner never came back, and it waited there every day. And now it's they've officiated that into a statue, which I think is assumedly represents loyalty and friendship. But yeah, those stories, seeing by your reaction, they always sort of tug the heartstrings more than a boy girl relationship.
I think so. I just think animals and fictional creatures, I guess, are just more wholesome and likable and innocent. I feel like humans have let us down so many times in history and in the world right now. Like you hear stories, so you don't trust humans. But like when it comes to animals, I mean, anyone who has a pet would be able to attest. Like, who else are you going to come home to where they're just so excited just because you're home? Yeah. Or you leave somewhere for an hour and like they think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, it's that unconditional love that, for me, dogs have for you. So no matter how, like you said, if you leave them for, a whole day because you're at work, or, you had to yell at them because they've destroyed something, they still love you unconditionally. And it's almost a case where you feel like you can be yourself with them because they will always love you no matter what. So there's no facade or face that you have to put up with them, Like, I mean, we all wake up, people who live with pets and dogs, you wake up in the morning where, you're looking probably not the greatest and they still love you as much as, when you probably dressed up to your nines and they don't have any judgment. It's all love and love with them.
They're so sweet and we don't deserve them, honestly.
Yeah.
They're so, I don't know. I think you're right. It's the feeling of safeness with them.
It's like they will always love you no matter what, no matter, how attractive you are or how not attractive you are, or, whether you're rich or you're poor, like they will always love you.
They're great. Because have you seen, it's a little bit dated, but it's still relevant. Like that thing that went viral online, Bear versus Man.
Is it a show?
No, I don't even remember. I might have talked about this before, so apologies if I have. But Bear versus Man was this like meme on the internet where people would go around asking, particularly women, if you had to go into the forest alone with a bear or a man, like who would you pick? And then majority of people always said bear.
Bear, yeah.
Because they don't trust men.
I would say the same thing too. I think animals, in some ways, like their thinking and their emotions are very straightforward. Us humans are a little bit more complex and there's sometimes hidden agendas. You can say one thing but mean the other. We're a bit more complicated. I guess you can say like advanced, but, very complicated.
Complicated is probably the right word. There's just so many layers to being a human or a person that it's really hard to predict or comprehend everything. So the unknown, I think, is naturally scary.
Yeah, that's right. Just going back to your topic on dragons, I just sort of, even I have like a fascination with dragons, and my sort of, when I think of dragons, I always go back to like Pokemon and the dragon type, because, dragons in the Pokemon game and universe are known as the mythical rare creatures, the ones that are the most difficult to train, but they're the most powerful ones. And it's the ones that you always want to have in your team because they're cool. And yeah, there's something about them that's just so, like I said, fascinating that I don't know, and that's probably why we do have this whole, spin-off on Game of Thrones that's focused on the dragons, because everyone loved the dragons in the series that they've now sort of based the prequel on it. But yeah, and Harry Potter, I don't think there was really too much stuff around dragons. It might have been like only in, I can't remember what it was, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Do you remember watching that movie when there's like a whole bunch of like wizards that they had to go through this like competition to win a medal or this trophy, and it was like one of the tests was around like having to get an egg that was being protected by a dragon, and there was all these different types of dragons.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
I mean, Harry Potter's been around long enough that I hope this isn't a spoiler, but skip through this if it could be for the next 5-10 minutes. Is that the one where that kid dies?
Yes, Cedric
Robert
Diggory.
Patterson?
Yeah, Robert Patterson. Yeah, yeah. Mr. Future Twilight. Yep. Yes, that's the one. Yeah. But I don't think they had really much play on dragons in Harry Potter, surprisingly. It was very much more focused on the sort of wizards and
the
witches.
Individuals.
Yep, exactly.
Which I also appreciate, by the way. I love a coming of age story. So it's interesting that I didn't get as into Harry Potter.
Yeah. But even like going to, superstition as well, like, because it's the year of the dragon this year, isn't it?
Oh, maybe that's why it's so front of mind.
But like a lot of future or existing parents have this whole idea of like, if you have a kid that's born in the year of the dragon, it's super lucky, and they'll have a really good, happy and fortunate life. And again, it's sort of attached to what the dragon represents.
Which is weird because the dragon doesn't always represent that. It's supposed to be big and grand because it's mythical and it's big and massive. But the funny thing is, like, to do with the dragon is, I'm talking more like theories around the spiritual parts of it, as it being the year of the dragon, which is the idea that it comes with chaos and destruction. So why would you want a chaotic, destructive child? But there was a spike in birth, by the way, because I think people like the idea of having a kid in the year of the dragon.
Yeah, I mean, like, no one's going to go off about someone who's born in the year of the pig or the rooster.
I think pig is like supposed to be good for fortune. They're
great. So you mean like they're very like economical and business savvy?
They're supposed to be like lucky in their own way. Like that's why like there's all those sayings about like seeing flying pigs in your dreams is a sign of luck.
Oh yeah.
So if anything, like they have more luck associated with them versus a dragon that has a lot more like fear. But I guess you also like the idea of like having a kid or a human that can like hold their own. Like I think that's also attractive.
Yeah. Yeah.
The zodiacs, like because we're speaking Chinese zodiacs.
Yeah.
Like the Chinese calendar. But I like following astrology and zodiac and all that stuff, but I'm not that much. I don't know enough about it to speak to it, but I like it. Like I think it's fun to hear about the stories and the theories and the potential influence it has on people's lives. But people need to consider that like it's not just that one zodiac, because if you follow Western astrology as well, you also have a star sign along with your zodiac sign.
Yeah, doesn't it go deeper where it's not, whether you're a Pisces or a Leo, but there's like that a dark or water or earth? Does that ring a bell? I hear a lot of people sometimes talk about that.
Yeah, so speaking about Western astrology, so star signs and stuff, so each sign has an element. So it's fire, air, water.
Oh yeah, it's elemental aspect of it.
What did I already say?
Fire, water, air,
and earth.
Yeah, that's like the three. That's the four elements in Avatar. Last episode. Yeah.
Have you watched Captain
America?
No. What's the one? And the fifth one's heart?
Yeah, Captain America.
Is he Captain America?
No, they all those ring symbols form Captain America.
Oh. I forgot about him. But I always, like, growing up, I thought it was like the funniest thing to have like fire, light, blah, 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 and then heart, which is like, it's great.
The heart one was like really good because I think like the kid, because he was like I think he seemed like he was the youngest in the gang and the group. Like he couldn't get like animals on his side by like, in developing an immediate friendship with them. Like I can remember him like heart to like a tiger, and the tiger would help them in like missions and stuff. Or he can get like animals to spy on like, if they were trying to like, go to some, what is it called? Like a pollution factory. They'll get like, he would heart a parrot to go fly and spy on the plant for them and come back to tell them information. Yeah, so the heart was actually very useful. It wasn't just one of those sort of last minute thought ones. It had a bit of value in the group.
I do like those ones though. I spoke about a couple episodes ago. Like one of my favorite shows growing up was Digimon, and Kairi was the crest of light. Like light. What is really light? It was like this overpowered thing. But you always got to have one in those child cartoons. What were we talking about before that?
We're talking about
Captain America, and then before Captain America,
it was like star signs.
Star signs. Yeah. So you have elements, which is those elements, and then they would generally have traits related to you. So if you're an earth sign, you're more likely to be grounded. If you're an air sign, you're more likely to go with the flow and not like people breaking a fluid flow. Like there's kind of this analogy to it. And I just want to disclaim before people get all funny about it. Like my personal belief about astrology is I think it's a good indication of what might influence who you are as a person. And if you want to learn or know more about that state in your life, it's just information for you to reflect on and choose what you want to do with that information. Because so fire signs are like very passionate and like they're known to being quite like aggressive and outspoken, right? But if you're not a fire sign, it doesn't mean that you can't be passionate and fiery. It just means that your natural tendencies might not be lent towards that, but it doesn't mean that you can't know that about yourself. And if that's something you want for yourself, you can't like learn to do. So it goes back to that nature versus nurture thing. If you want to believe that astrology affects your
it's like
nature.
Humans are complex. You can't really define anyone by a single characteristic or attribute. Because you're right, someone that maybe who is a bit more reserved in nature or an introvert, at times will want to go out and drink and party, or sometimes they might have a temper. Who knows? So we're all very multidimensional.
Well, that personality test, what's that one where you get like EI personality
I always see
test?
them like on like TikTok and Instagram when people like promoting their profile, and they have like it's like a 4-letter sort of thing. Yeah.
It's more popular in certain countries than others. It's the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI test. And it gives you like, you do a test and then it gives you your traits, but it's always by percentage, which I really like. So for example, you might skew being an introvert or an extrovert, but you might only be like 70% introvert, which I think like plays into the idea that you said, like you could be an introvert, but doesn't mean that you want to stay in every time. It might be your preference most day, but it doesn't mean you don't like going out and socializing because it's a percentage, it's a spectrum.
What was that thing we said about life isn't black and white? It's pretty much grey.
That's a grey.
Yeah. This just follows that whole concept.
Yeah. I like the personality test. Mine's changed actually. So I try to, every time I remember about it, which is every couple of years, I try to redo it and my percentage tend to change. I think my actual like traits rarely change, but my percentage tend to change.
It's kind of like you said, it goes back to the nurture aspect, because I think I would expect that you would be quite a different person from now compared to when, say, you were living at home with your parents and being in a school environment where maybe there was a bit more influence from external factors versus you maybe you're still discovering yourself. So I feel like for me, like I would have been probably like on the more extreme introverted side being younger, and then I think now I've sort of skewed a bit more to the other side. Not extrovert, but progressively, more willing to go out and do things and meet new people.
I'm like the opposite.
Well, you're regressing. I wouldn't say regressing, but you're becoming more like a homestay body.
I think I appreciate my alone time and the energy fulfillment that you can get from being on your own. Or if it wasn't obvious, I have always been skewed extroverted by like a large percentage. And I think that was obvious because I love spending time with people. I might not have been like the party animal that went out every weekend, but I loved spending time with people. Like I really didn't like being alone. And then as I matured and got older, I've learned to find peace being on my own and actually enjoy it. So
I think you're right. I think me, like you probably are the opposite because I went from someone that like loved and had a strong preference of being like alone and loved, spending time by myself, where now I value having, another person there and being able to do stuff together, whether it's going for a walk or, going to the gym or that sort of stuff. Whereas if you asked me 10 years ago, it would have been the opposite.
I still prefer to go out, by the way. So if you know me personally, still invite me out, please. And that's why animals are so good, because if you can't find a friend that's free, they'll go on a walk with you and like hang out with you.
Oh no, they pretty much just sort of mold to the to your sort of lifestyle, don't you? Although I guess maybe the sort of dogs you have, is you probably choose them based on your personality, like particularly the breed, So, Cavaliers, for example, are bred as lap dogs, so they're very sort of almost, I guess, the introvert, highly introverted dog species, where they like just to be at home and not have sort of too much exercise and not outdoorsy. It's more about, sleeping and, being accompanied by, their sort of master. Whereas I guess it probably would be a bad idea for me if I had, for example, like a border collie. Like that dog's very active, needs a lot of attention, stimulation. Whereas I just kind of want like a dog that is happy to sort of sleep and nap all the day, is what my dogs do.
Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. They were actually bred to be a literal lap dog. I believe they were bred for royalty, and I think they were designed to literally sit on royalty's feet to keep their feet warm. That was literally what they were bred for.
Yeah, and then I think back in those days, when like lice was an issue, like the dogs would like essentially attract the lice away from their owners or humans, and then they were multi-purpose, not just a foot leg warmer, but also to attract all those sort of nasty little creatures onto them to save their owners from bites and whatnot.
Isn't it wild that dogs are a descendant of wolves, that are like one of the most wild, vicious creatures in the wild, and now they're like domesticated and you can get breeds like a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel or a Yappy Chihuahua from wolves.
Yeah, I think, I don't think any of my dogs would survive a day in the wild. They've got like a very specific routine, and when it's 6 o'clock, it's dinner time. When it's very structured. I think we've made them a bit soft, but that's probably just there's probably still they've still retained a bit of their like ancestry and attributes. Like they still bark when they see unfamiliar things. And I think in particular dog, it's all about sort of that pack mentality and being in a collective group. That's where the saying around like lone wolf sort of originates, because dogs, I don't think they're creatures that like to be alone. So, that's probably why they hate it when, you leave the house, because especially if there's only one dog in the house, they probably get really sad because it's like they're sort of by themselves when they're so used to being in a pack all the time.
Sad. You know what else is a funny descendant of an animal that used to be big and strong and tough? A chicken.
Oh, really?
They're descendants of dinosaurs. Future Jaws here. Just letting you all know that there was some technical difficulties, so we abruptly paused, but we'll be back soon. Hello, we're back.
Yes, we're back after slight hiccup, technical difficulty, you could say.
The camera ran out of batteries.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then I had to charge it. So it's actually been a minute, and I don't know if we look the same, and I barely remember what we were speaking about. So I thought we'll just turn it back on to kind of wrap things up because I think it's been a little while anyways. So we'll just talk about the descendants of animals before, which is really exciting. I think I was going on.
That's it. We're talking about chickens and how they're the last living, would you say, relative or ancestor for dinosaurs. And I was like, I thought it was crocodiles and alligators.
I said the descendants of dinosaurs and the closest that we have in modern day. I think they're closely related to the what's the main dinosaur that everyone thinks about when you think about dinosaurs?
Not T-Rex.
T-Rex.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And if you think about it, look at their feet and stuff like that. T-Rex.
Okay. I was going to associate it more with like the flying one, the pterodactyl, but I guess chickens don't fly, do they?
Chickens don't fly. They have wings, but they
just flap and like glide for like 2 seconds until they fall back onto the ground.
Yeah. Anyways, let's wrap it up because it's been a hot minute and the momentum's gone and we'll see you again next week. But dessert, gratitude for the week, things we're thankful for.
So I've gone back to pretty much work and reality the past week. And so I kind of am very grateful for having weekends in our lives. As much as we complain about how short they are, which they are, it's actually great just to have 2 days off, every 5 days to essentially, do all the things that you actually find, enjoyable and relaxing in life. So grateful for the weekends. Keep them coming.
It's actually a good one. I'm thankful for friends that make you think better of the human race because as we kind of spoke about in the earlier episode, there's a lot more records of them being not great. So it's nice when there's people close to you that reminds you that humanity does exist.
Yeah, it goes back to what was the thing we talked about a while ago, the trolley theory. Those people that, do the extra mile or do the small thing that, might make someone's day better. There's still a lot of them out there.
And meal prep. So things we have planned or things we're looking forward to that is just worth calling out.
One thing I want to do is, again, like sort of readjusting back to reality. I kind of want to get back into a schedule. I kind of like realized how hard it is to develop good habits and scheduling, whether it's making sure you go to the gym here and there or sticking to diets and that stuff. So I'm going to try to get back into that that schedule of life and hopefully it somehow sinks in and it just becomes natural, because at the moment it is very much hard, especially coming back from holidays. You kind of still in that relaxation, full sort of disconnect, detachment from reality. So yeah, back to scheduling and all that jazz.
Bringing it full circle, we talked about dragons at the start, well, in the middle, wherever. I realized I only found out there's 2 sequels to How to Train a Dragon. I'm looking forward to watching those 2 movies in the near future.
That's a good one. That's a good, hopefully easy one that you can next week say you've ticked and done and dusted with.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Sorry about the hiccup. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Actually, just one more thing. This is episode 10, so we're now into the double digits. So celebrations for us.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.